Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Senators, it's my pleasure to rise to speak to Senator Simon's inquiry that calls on our chamber to explore the challenges and opportunities that municipalities face and the importance of understanding and redefining the relationship between Canada's municipalities and our federal government. I'd also like to thank my honourable colleague for introducing this very important inquiry. Municipalities play a critical role in each and every one of our lives. If there's one thing I know, it's rural. I have spent my life in and around rural communities, advocating for rural residents. With that being said, I hope to highlight the important role of rural municipalities, the unique challenges and opportunities that they face, and the importance of continued federal support for all things rural today. As many of you know, I'm a lifelong resident of Fergus, Ontario. It's where my ancestors settled in 1834, and it's where I continue to reside today. Fergus is a rural community most famous for its scenic river views, waterfall, limestone gorge, and the annual Fergus Scottish Festival. Now, a little history lesson. Fergus has deep Scottish roots dating back to 1833, when settlers called it Little Falls because of its scenic waterfalls. In 1858, with a population of 1,000, the town was incorporated and renamed Fergus in honour of one of its Scottish founders, Adam Ferguson. While you may be wondering why I wanted to share this information with you today, I believe it's important to show that the history of our rural communities is woven into the history of our country, as many of them predated Confederation. Unfortunately, municipalities that encompass rural Canada are sometimes forgotten when governments are developing policies that impact Canadians from coast to coast to coast. As a senator, I've met with countless community leaders across rural Canada to learn more about the concerns and needs of their communities. The rural residents and leaders that I have met are always one thing, regardless of where they live or work. They are consistently clear in what their communities need to prosper and thrive. Typically, they need support from their province and the federal government to help achieve their goals and realize projects related to infrastructure, community development, and access to services. Their stories and ideas have both inspired and informed how I approach issues here in the Red Chamber. Rural communities have their own unique set of challenges and opportunities and should be treated as such. While in many areas rural population growth has slowed, these communities still play a critical role in our economy, providing food, fresh water, recreation, and resources for those living within and beyond their boundaries. They all have a story to tell, and I'm hopeful that more will be done to bridge the rural-urban divide in the years to come. While our communities' histories are important for understanding those who live there, it's also important to take a step back and reflect on the role of municipalities' governance that helps build and develop these rural regions. Each municipality, large and small, rural and urban, has a governing body. Our local governments play an integral role in the everyday lives of their residents. From waste disposal and public transit to fire services, policing, community centres and libraries, municipal governments are responsible for it all. Fergus is located within Centre Wellington, which is a township within Wellington County. As such, Fergus is supported by both the Centre Wellington Council and the Wellington County Council. Both councils, along with every municipal government from coast to coast to coast, provides residents with the support they need to live, work and play in their communities. I'm proud to have served as Ward 5 representative on Wellington County Council before being appointed to the Senate. It gave me the opportunity to really understand how municipalities operate and the important ways in which it affects each and every one of us. I'd like to take this time to acknowledge the good work of both Centre Wellington and Wellington County Councils and congratulate those who were elected in last autumn's municipal elections. I look forward to seeing what is able to be achieved over the course of this term and extend my very best wishes to all councillors in supporting their communities. Today, municipal governments in rural and urban communities play a complex role in the lives of their residents. The environments in which they operate have become much more complex and demanding. With that comes more complex challenges they must face. In the case of rural communities, many face challenges they cannot afford to address alone. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, and the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, ROMA, for their efforts to support municipalities across Ontario and in turn help to strengthen and enhance their efforts to support their residents. AMO works to make municipal governments stronger and more effective. Through their organization, Ontario's 444 municipalities, rural and urban, work together to achieve shared goals and meet common challenges. I believe that our municipalities benefit immeasurably from the support of these organizations, as well as others in Ontario and across Canada. It is clear that organizations like AMO and Roma, or the many other wonderful organizations that my colleagues have mentioned in their speeches, provide immeasurable value to communities across this country. Late last year, we welcomed the Minister of Rural Economic Development in this chamber for a ministerial question period. We heard through a number of questions about a wide array of challenges that rural Canadians face and the opportunities for the federal government to provide support, including access to reliable broadband, developing and enhancing rural transportation, increasing access to health services, immigration programs, housing and community building, among many others. In order to better support rural municipalities, I call on this chamber and the federal government to adopt a rural lens when exploring the challenges and opportunities that municipalities face. Aging infrastructure, competing priorities, and access to critical services are just a few challenges that rural municipalities face. However, they simply cannot address these challenges alone. For example, in my community of Centre Wellington, there are 113 bridges, 3/4 of which are in need or near need of replacing. I am also hopeful this inquiry encourages the federal government to reevaluate and redefine the relationship with municipalities. It is clear that both rural and urban municipalities require long-term financial and policy-driven support that will encourage long-lasting positive changes. The Canada Community Building Fund, or the former Gas Tax Fund, provides some support to some communities, some municipalities. It is clear that more support is needed, though, especially for those underserved communities. Another support to rural Ontario, the Rural Ontario Institute, also known as ROI, is a charitable not-for-profit that delivers programs that develop strong leaders who are critical voices around opportunities and key issues facing rural and northern Ontario. This organization is close to my heart, as I was a previous Chief Executive Officer, and I know just how hard this team works to support rural communities across the province. I'd also like to take a few minutes to also highlight an initiative by the University of Guelph, the People's Archive of Rural Ontario, also known as PARO. PARO has done an amazing job of capturing the resilience and revitalization of rural Ontario through the many stories of communities, individuals, and experiences pulled together in one place. If you've never heard of PARO, I invite you to visit their website at www.ruralontario.org to learn more. I am proud of the initiatives like this that are working to help bridge the gap between rural and urban across Canada, but much more needs to be done. Honourable colleagues, we cannot ignore rural municipalities. We cannot ignore that rural municipalities require the same attention as their urban counterparts. It's not enough to treat these communities as an afterthought. These municipalities are just as important as their urban counterparts, and I hope that this inquiry and future federal policies will reflect this. Thank you. Merci. Magritte.